Reverb is a persistence of sound after the sound is produced. Reverb happens when sound is reflected by various surfaces, most commonly indoors. The difference between reverb and echo is that an echo can be heard as a distinct reflection, whereas reverb is a diffused set of reflections. Reverb gives us a sense of space. Our brains use these reflections to figure out what kind of place the music is being played in and how near or far we are from the source of the sound. It's an essential ingredient that turns a flat mix into a three-dimensional sound stage. Let's assume that this is a concert hall. A singer is singing and we are listening to her performance. There are three types of sounds going on here as far as reverb is concerned. 1. The sound that comes to us directly from the singer. In mixing terminology, we call this the dry sound. 2. Sounds that reach our ears after being reflected only once. These are called early reflections. 3. Sounds that reach our ears after bouncing off several surfaces. These are called tail. Early reflections and tail are collectively called reverb. So why make a distinction between the two? Well, early reflections still convey a sense of directionality. Our brains can use them to infer where the sound is coming from. On the other hand, tail gives us information about the space that the music is being played in. How large is it? Is it very reflective, perhaps consisting of bare floors, walls, and windows? Or absorbent, perhaps filled with people or furniture? Here's one very important parameter of reverb. The time between when we hear the dry sound and when we hear the first reflections is called pre-delay. By controlling the relative levels of dry sound, early reflections, and tail, and by manipulating pre-delay, we can actually control the virtual perceived distance between our listener and our sound source. Now let's put all these in context. Here is a totally dry piano sound. Now let's add reverb to this. Go to the inserts, under the reverb category, let's go for Roomworks. We can definitely hear the reverb, but it sounds funky to me. That's because pre-delay is a bit too high. It's right here, set to 50 milliseconds. I don't know why Steinberg chose to make this the default setting, because 50 milliseconds is actually accepted as the border between reverb and echo. See, if I turn this up even a bit more, you will be able to hear it as a discrete echo. Setting pre-delay somewhere between 20 to 30 milliseconds is a good starting point. If it's too short, any shorter than 20 milliseconds, it will reduce intelligibility of the sound, especially on vocals. So this is a good place to start from. Roomworks tries to emulate the acoustic behavior of an indoor environment. Here you can set the size of that environment and how reflective it is. But the most important setting here is the reverb time. Let's crank this up and see what happens. See, we already placed our piano in a large concert hall. Now the most important setting here is the one here, called mix. This sets the ratio between the dry signal and reverb. If you set it to 0%, you will hear the dry signal only, like so. If you set it to 100% or click this wet only button here, you will hear the reverb only. Think about this for a second. When the sound source is close to you, you hear more of the dry sound and less of the reverb. Conversely, when the sound source is far, you hear much more of the reverb. So by manipulating this mix setting and volume here, you can actually control how near or far you want this piano to be. Check this out. Let's put a lot of reverb and bring down the volume to place this piano far from us. Now let's decrease the ratio of reverb and bring the piano closer. The input filter and damping sections here allow us to change the frequency content of the material coming into and going out of this processor, but I will show you a much more effective way of doing this when we talk about reverb in the practice section of this course. So now let's move on to another excellent reverb plugin that comes with Cubase, Reverb. So let's remove this and go to Reverb. RoomWorks used an algorithm to calculate and add artificial reflections to our sound source. Reverb, on the other hand, uses a different method. It uses impulse response technology, in which the acoustic responses of different spaces are modeled and reproduced. So when you go to the preset window of Reverb, like here, you will see a list of the places that were modeled. When you select one, Reverb will apply that venue's acoustic properties to your sound, resulting in a much more realistic and natural reverb. By default, the mix setting on Reverb opens at 100%, so we need to turn it down when we're using it on an insert slot, like here. And again, by default, pre-delay is set to 0, which, like I said a minute ago, can decrease intelligibility, so let's bring that up as well. You can tinker with this modeled reverb, just like we did with RoomWorks, adjusting the length and the size as you like. And Reverb also allows you to treat early reflections and tail separately. So this is only the tail, and this is only the early reflections. Although Reverb is state-of-the-art technology, it's a great tool for adding a vintage reverb vibe to your mixes as well. Before the invention of reverb units as we know them today, people used all sorts of creative solutions to add reverb to their mixes. This includes plate reverbs and spring reverbs. These were commonly used on many hit albums until the 1980s, and their characteristic sounds have become so popular that mixing engineers continue to use them for color even after high-quality reverb units became common in studios. Since impulse response technology is excellent at modeling the reflection behavior of various environments, Reverb is perfect for adding a touch of retro to your mixes. Try a plate reverb on vocals and spring reverb on guitars. They sound really tasty. We will talk about using reverb in greater detail in the practice section of this course.